What's up, guys? It's Paco the Realtor. Hope all is well. I'm going to start doing a weekly live series. I don't do live videos much at all. I used to do them back in the day. I'm going to do a weekly live series on different topics. And today is very telling because the National Association of Realtors today went ahead and came to an agreement on a very large lawsuit and what that means to buyers, but that will be at the end. The whole point of today was more than anything just to talk to you guys about what's up, Sophia? To talk to you guys about real estate and buying a home and some of the common mistakes I keep seeing people do, which is kind of amazing to me that people are still doing them. What's up, my friend Alex? So I'm going to wait for a few guys to come on. I'm actually live streaming. I'm trying something new. I'm live streaming on 4 different platforms right now: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. So I have 4 different platforms going, so I'm kind of playing with it. But we will go from there, and we will figure this out. So today I'm going to talk to you about the 4 things you got to do before you buy a house in today's market, not generic. Kind of what we've seen with all our listings and the mistakes that buyers are making. And then we're going to talk a little about the National Association of Realtors, what that means to buyers, because today is all about buyers, not sellers. Next week, we're going to do something on sellers. Today is specifically buyers. So again, I'm going to wait for a few guys to come in here on all these platforms. I apologize if there is any kind of technical errors, because again, we are doing 4 platforms at one time. We're kind of playing with this technology, and so my eyes are kind of jumping around from place to place to figure out and make sure that I have everything correct. So, all right, guys, let's get into this. I want to. This will probably take 15-20 minutes of your time. I definitely will not be going too much into other stuff unless you specifically ask me. And let's see, here we go. All right, here we go, guys. All right. First thing that you have to know in today's market as a buyer is you got to know the market. Let me explain what I mean by that. Or your realtor needs to know the market. In other words, if you are in an area where homes are lasting 7 days, once they hit the market, multiple offers, you cannot be the person that offers $10,000 below market. We have seen quite a bit of that, where the home would be worth $700,000 and they will offer $690,000 or $685,000 in a market where there is 10 offers coming in. At market, not above, but at market. The reason why this is happening is one of 2 things. One is the buyer is dictating what's happening, and the agent is doing what the buyer's asking, or the buyer agent has no idea what's going on. And I think I'm going to put the onus on the buyer's agent. It is your job to educate the buyers on what the market is doing. And I see it all too often. And a perfect example is we had a home that was on the market for $830,000. This client offered cash, because they had already sold their house, $815,000, okay? The house sold for $830,000, which was market price. My client is not going to give you a $15,000 discount just because it's cash. It's not going to happen. Not when we had 12 offers. What made this worse was it was a strong buyer, but I cannot dictate and I will not tell the buyer how to do their job. That is their job. Well, after we accepted another offer for $830,000, they called me back and said, "Can we offer $830,000 and get the house?" No, you can't. The house already sold. We've accepted another offer. And I felt bad for that buyer because they really were the strongest buyer. We we're going to get in a multiple counter offer situation, but my sellers got everything they wanted on the other offer, which was $830, no contingencies, no inspections. The house was clean, very clean. So there was not any concerns that my sellers were hiding anything. But I digress. This buyer's agent told me, after I told them they could not get this house, that they accepted another one. I told my clients they should have offered $830 cash. But my client said, oh no, if we're offering cash, we should get a discount. That is not the market for it today, guys. We are in a limited inventory situation where buyers have limited options. So when a house hits the market, you are going to get multiple offers. That's just the way of the world right now. And it's going to be the way of the world in the foreseeable future for different reasons. We'll go into that somewhere else. All right, guys? So don't be that person. Make sure your realtor knows what the hell's going on in your market that you're trying to buy, if you want a chance to be able to get these houses. All right, 2, know your numbers. Let me explain. We are getting a lot of people who are submitting their pre-qualification letters saying, I can buy this house for $900,000. Great. When I call the loan officers, they are saying they can buy the house for $900,000. Here's the rub. Here's the challenge. Know what your payment is at $900,000. I know it kind of seems like common sense, but it isn't common sense. And let me explain why. We just had a situation where a buyer I represented came to me and said, I have my own lender and I'm going to buy a house for $900,000. Okay. The lender would not return my phone calls, but the buyer found an open house that they wanted. They wanted how? Hey guys, a lot of people are starting to say hi on different platforms. So hello. They wanted it to go see this house. So I went to an open house with them, having a pre-qualification for $900,000. Well, we made an offer for $900,000. But then I asked them, do you know what your payment is on $900,000? And they're like, well, no, the lender never told me that. So I gave them an idea of what their payment is. Let me phrase that. They did not want to afford a house for those $900,000. There's a difference between being pre-qualified for a dollar amount. That means how much the lender says you can buy, and the actual payment that you want to buy in. The payment that was going to be at $900,000 with their down payment they had was $1,000 more than they were hoping for. So now they fell in love with a house that they didn't want to pay that payment on. Know your numbers. Know how much you qualify for. Know what your down payment is. And know what your payment is, principal and interest. We now are actually going to be having our own in-house lender mortgage, because I'm really tired of a lot of these lenders not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Not all of them, to be fair. But I rather control some of this process. And that's what we're going to be doing, is bring it in-house. So that way, as a real estate broker representing on the real estate side, I have someone in the in-house who can also control this for me and help me control this. So that's the number 2. Number 3, know your process. Know the buying process. I put this on the realtors. Again, what I mean by that is, not only do you need to know how much it's going to cost to buy the house, your payment and the down payment. How much money do you need for the deposit? Depending, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. How many days do you have to request for repairs? In a normal car contract, it's 17 days unless modified. So that means in 17 days, you need to know that in 17 days, you need to remove those repair contingencies. And the reason I bring this up is because in the last 2 inspections, final inspections that we've done, we've had the buyer ask us to do more than was originally requested on the buyer inspection. I put this on the realtor, not necessarily the buyers. I call it horse crap. And no, you've already removed the inspection contingencies. You cannot request, you can request it, and I can kindly say no, but we shouldn't even be there. We're doing the final inspection before we close so I can give you your keys, and now you're asking for more. I fully blame this on the realtor. Know the process. When you go in to buy the house, have a realtor, we're more than happy to educate you on what the expectation is on the process. How many days you have to do an appraisal? How many days you have to do an inspection? How many days are you going to be closed to escrow? When do you get the keys? I blame this on the realtors. We are in a sea of realtors that are just chasing the commissions. Know the difference between the buyer, a realtor who knows what the hell they're doing and is going to take care of you and walk you down the process, than a realtor that makes an offer, hands off the file to a transaction coordinator, which we have, and you never hear from them again. And this is why we get a bad rap. Because of that. Because we are in a world of BS realtors. Now, the good news is it is easy to stand out as a good realtor because we know what the hell we're doing. The bad news is you as a buyer sometimes don't know the difference between good realtors and BS. And this is why I will be doing a crap load of video content on the difference between someone who does a full-time. There are good part-time realtors, so let me be very clear on that. But someone who has experience, who can anticipate, who can problem solve, who understands the process, who sets the correct expectations. And when you lose your shit and something doesn't go right, which happens all the time, that realtor is there to say, it's okay. We'll take care of it. That is the difference between a good realtor and everybody else. So that's number 3. Okay, number 4. I'm going to talk a little about the common mistakes that buyers are making in today's market. Not in general, in today's market. I've already talked about not knowing the market and offering less on a house you really want. That's the biggest mistake you can make. I already talked about, knowing your rates and your numbers. So we've already discussed that. So that's a given, right? Waiting to buy. Paco, I can afford to buy. I'm ready to buy, but I am going to wait for the market to crash. You, my friend, are waiting for home prices to go up is really what you're doing. You need to understand we are in a market of limited inventory and it is not going to change going forward. So what does that mean? Why in the world would you wait for the real estate prices to go down when they're going to go up? Because there's not a lot of inventory. Rates are all over the place, and we expect rates to go down by fourth quarter. Yes, if you're waiting for rates to drop because that's what you need to afford the home you want to buy in, that makes absolute sense. But if you're waiting for the market to crash, look, I can sit here right now and talk to you about how the market's going to crash. We're all going to shit in a handbasket. And there's a market for that. And you can go on YouTube, and those are all the number 1 videos, the fear factors. The market's going to crash. We're going to drop 40%, blah, 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 blah. They are full of shit. And the reason they're full of shit is because at the end of the day, inventory is going to dictate whether home values drop or not. Nobody's selling. There's limited inventory. And that is what is keeping the home prices up. There's just no way around it. Waiting to buy a home you like. So let's assume you went to an open house and you saw the open house and you love the house, and then you call your realtor up and say, I found my perfect house, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see what happens. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to see if maybe it stays on the market longer. You've already lost. Remember that whole know your market? Most homes are selling in 1 weekend, in 7 days. So if I saw it on a Sunday and on a Thursday, you call me up and say, I want to make an offer, there's a damn good chance that house is already gone, or they're already negotiating offers. It happened to one of my buyers. Guys, know your market. Realtors should know the market. If you see the house at an open house on Sunday, you better have an offer Sunday night if you want a shot to even get that house. That's just the way it is. That is today's market. Not yesterday's, not tomorrow's, today's. And you need to freaking understand that. If not, you're going to lose out. And hopefully you have a good realtor to walk you through that. All right. Trying to ask for too much in closing costs. Let's assume the house is worth $800,000 and you offer for $800,000, but you ask for $20,000 in closing costs. In essence, you're asking the seller to give you $20,000 to help you with your loan. You're not going to get it. Just like you're not going to get it if you're going to offer less. Today's market is dictating that you offer exactly what they're asking. If the house is worth $800,000, give them $800,000. You don't have to give them a dollar more. You don't have to give them a dollar less. Offer $800,000 and start there. You will have a shot at every house you like. But we had half the offers come in with closing costs. Now, if I assume that you need that money, then increase the price, but make sure it appraises. In other words, if you need an extra $10,000 to buy that house, offer $810,000 and then ask for $10,000 back, because that net that the seller is going to get is the same to them. So there's ways to play with this, but you got to know the market. You got to know how to negotiate. You got to know what the hell you're talking about. And that is our job. Right here, presente. That is our job. Not yours. Your job is to be the buyer and be emotional, fall in love with the houses, and think of where your backyard and what you're going to, and what your garage is going to look like, and where your kids are going to sleep, and what you're going to decorate. That's your job. Our job is to walk you through this. I hope this makes sense. All right, guys. So I will end with this. This was not part of the original, the 4 things you need to know before you buy a house. But today, the National Association of Realtors came to an agreement in a bunch of lawsuits. I'm not going to go into detail, but in essence, what the lawsuits were that the seller should not have to pay for the buyer's commission. Right now, when you buy a house, there's a buyer's agent and there's a seller's agent. The seller pays both commissions for both the buyer and the seller. The lawsuit claimed that was wrong. The seller's has nothing to do with the buyer's agent. It's always been like that. Well, they won, and then it was appealed. Well, they came to an agreement. What does this mean to you? A few things. 1, there's no longer going to be any MLS commission dictated on the commission. Meaning, when I go into the multiple listing service on a house you like right now, it will tell me how much the seller's paying in commission. That will now be 0. I now have to call. Okay, whatever. 2, buyer agreements need to be signed. What does that mean? When you sell your house, you have to sign what's called a listing agreement, which gives me the right to sell your house at a given price, and we negotiate the commission that you will be paying to sell that house. Well, now the buyers have to do that. And in there's going to be a number that says, hey, Mr. Buyer, if you want to buy a house, I need to make $10,000. I'll just give you that's just an example. And if the seller doesn't pay me that, you need to pay me that or the difference. In essence, that's what's going to happen. And this starts July 1st of 2024. There's still a lot of unknowns. Can you finance that and put it in your loan? There's still a lot of things that need to be worked out. But what you need to understand is now you really need to think about what agent you're going to hire. Are you going to hire your part-time cousin who has no experience, who could care less, whose only job was to open the door, make the offer, and you never saw them again, and then be a possibility that you're going to have to pay that guy $10,000, $5,000 to represent you? I think not, because right now, the way it stands, you don't have any skin in the game. It doesn't cost you anything to hire your part-time cousin who could care less about you. All you want them to do is get you in the door and make an offer. But if now you might have to pay them, That means value and expertise are going to be very important. So now you're really going to have to think about, wait a minute. If I'm going to buy a house and that seller doesn't pay the commission to that buyer's agent, I might have to pay that. And then if I do I have that money? And is that buyer agent worth it? Now you have to think about it. This is where we're going to separate the kids from the boys. This is where we're going to separate the adults from the children. This is where we're going to separate the experienced agents from the yahoos. It's going to slowly start to come out because they're not going to have any value. Their value is, I'll open the door. Don't worry, the seller pays me, so what do you care? Now the conversation is, you might have to pay me this if the seller doesn't pay me, because it's going to be negotiated now. And if you really want that house and you really want an agent to represent you because you don't want to be ripped off, which is still in California, that's still something you're going to want, you might have to pay that guy because you fell in love with this house. Is that guy worth it? Is that girl worth it? That's the difference. And over the next few months, we're going to find out. So, that was a lot. It was a lot longer than 15 minutes. All right, guys. So next week, I'll be doing it on sellers. Every week, I'm going to be a different topic. And I'm hoping this grows where people can ask questions and go on and you know, about situations and things like that. But if you're a buyer, I hope you saw this. There's a lot of decisions you need to make going forward. All right, guys. And if you have questions, send me a DM, send me a message. I will answer those questions. I'm more than happy to. Because this is what I do. 23 years experience doing this full time. This is how I feed my family. This is how I do it. All right, guys. God bless. As always, this is Paco the Realtor, broker owner of Arch Real Estate. Local expert, storyteller. And there's going to be a lot of stories to be told in the future, guys. I can promise you that. Hasta luego. Mm-hmm.